Hey everyone, I thought I'd just do a quick video on what I'm calling high level and low level spirituality. I think it's important to make the distinction because what we need to do ultimately is to raise human consciousness, and albeit a lot of the people who are, sort of on the spiritual journey are indeed beginning to do that, but they have yet to face up to or even accept. In fact, they will have a knee-jerk reaction still to processing the darkness of the world, because true awakening means not only awakening to the light, it means that you simultaneously awaken to the darkness, and that is really testament of a true awakening, right? That's the only way it can really operate. And as Carl Jung said, there's no coming into consciousness without pain. And a lot of the process is very difficult. When you begin to realize the true extent to which we've been manipulated and programmed, aka hypnotized, brainwashed by the government. That is indeed the nature of 21st century fascism, right? It's purely psychological. It starts at state school. The whole of society, like if you think of that image from the Matrix where Neo wakes up and he sees all the rest of the beings all in their stasis pods, essentially, right? Just being used as batteries. That's what's going on, right? So a lot of these people who begin to wake up, they see it very much as a sort of simply empathetic, kind of sympathetic and compassionate approach, which is of course great, right? But if you approach them with any of these sort of like quote unquote conspiracies, they run them out, they run a mile, and they say it's trash, it's trashy, it's Illuminati stuff, all this. They hate it, and that's because they have yet to begin campaigning for what really needs to take place, which is to raise human consciousness, to expand in awareness. And the only way we can do that is by diagnosing the problem. The problem being, of course, that there is a lot of darkness in the world, and it's coming from an agenda. It's undeniable, okay? So the new age is the new cage, right? This is what's going on. Like they're spoon feeding us all this sort of loving sort of spirituality and this sort of teachings of a surface level, was they never actually go into the esoteric traditions of what's really happening behind the scenes, like the true science of spirituality, and also how that can be usurped, which it has done throughout history, how that's been used as a tool to wield over the unconscious sleeping masses who have actually been put under that spell by those people. So, this esoteric wisdom is a power that needs to, like they show in the Lord of the Rings. If you think of the knowledge as being that ring, right? Whoever wields that ring holds the power. So it depends on the consciousness. And this is why, like, even Frodo, by the end of it, was corrupt, right? He needed that Samwise. It needs someone very innocent and pure still to hold this power. It needs that. And this is, of course, analogous to the state of mind of people. And so most people who want to still live in the sort of Hobbit land, where they're just singing and dancing and being merry, like, is that spirituality? Or, whilst they're all doing that, you need to go on the hero's journey. You need to go and face up to the darkness in the world. And that can only happen when you start approaching the darkness that's taking place. What's really happening right now in the world, over the last 2 years? Do monsters really exist? What is really in this jab? These are questions that people really need to start asking themselves and start to, do your own homework. Because remember, like, you have a divine intelligence, right? We have two brain hemispheres, and most people are only using the left brain hemisphere. Now, people who start to awaken, of course, are using their brain in a more holistic, harmonious way. And it's never to write off this, right? But it's important to make the distinction that people who are simply thinking that it's all love and light and everything's all rosy, which you might feel like that when you first awaken, at least it did for me for maybe a couple of months. But I immediately also was able to identify, it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck's going on? I almost had a sort of psychotic break. And, you're going to quickly begin questioning, like, why on earth are people not talking about all this stuff? What is consciousness? What am I? What's going on? How can I even see the world? All this kind of stuff, right? And invariably, you'll be led down on this hero's journey, kicking and screaming, perhaps, or just out of pure curiosity, which is more for me. And you'll be led into the realization of what all these different symbols mean and what they're doing on their satanic sort of performances and these festivals and gigs. And the true nature of society will shock anyone who's still asleep or partially awake. And I think it's important to realize, like, a truly awakened chakra has ultimately faced up, or is willing to face up. And when I say chakra, I mean the Ajna chakra, the third eye. is willing to face up to and address and identify the darkness in the world, and as a result try to transmute that into light, because that's really what the journey is all about. There is only really God, there is only really light and a lack of light. Evil or darkness isn't actually a thing that exists in of itself. It's just simply a diminishing of the light of God in of itself. And they are sort of worshipping this fallen light and the limelight, you might say, so to speak, in terms of like the lower chakras, and people being pulled on the Manipura, the solar plexus, which is more about ego and the love of power as opposed to the power of love. And so this is very divisive and atomizing, and and so we end up living in that kind of world. But this can be peddled ultimately still by people who are yet to feel and sense the darkness that's all around them, because they're too busy focusing on things that I actually do enjoy myself. But going for readings, praying, meditating, yoga, all this kind of stuff is great. But if it just stays and ends there, then that's exactly what they're trying to attempt to bring in. This New World Order is going to include a breed of spirituality that is based on a more of a fallen light, a Luciferian light, in which they permit these certain things. Because remember, the whole agenda here is to masquerade, obfuscate their darkness through this sort of false sense of philanthropy and humanitarianism. That they've tried to even show us this notion that even like Bill Gates is a saint, and all these people it's horrendous. All these psychopaths in the world, Elon Musk as well, unfortunately. What are they actually doing? The Queen, what people eulogize these individuals without realizing it, having a clue. They have all this power, yet they're not even addressing any of these issues. Of course, they pretend to be, and they steal your money in the process. But all of this is happening, and it can unfortunately be maintained by people who are unwilling to face up to what they think of as conspiracy, because that's the power of that word conspiracy. No one wants to be framed as one of those. But that's what needs to happen. We need to actually be adult enough to approach and understand that we've been deceived and fooled in so many different ways. And, everyone's been a fool at some point in their lives, and that's what makes us a human, right? So, more so now than ever, like the amount of people that's unfortunately fallen for this latest psyop and scandal is what, like sort of 95% of humanity. So, but we're welcoming everyone into the truth movement to take a look at, critically, unbiasedly, a lot of the subjects that they've been trained to ridicule. And unfortunately, as I say, I won't labour the point, but if we don't truly awaken to the darkness, we will just stay in a world of yoga, in a world of sort of like, environmentalism, all these things that sound, beneficial, in which they are in a superficial sense. You'll never realise that actually you're simultaneously enslaved, psychologically enslaved to this insane socio-economic model. Right, that's what they want us to be. A social crediting system will just be something that they bring in the background. The CBDCs will be something they bring in the background. The 5G, the surveillance, surveillance capitalism. It's all just going to sort of slowly be, entering into society. And the children have no experience of anything different. So, if people are just sort of blissing out, on these higher, sort of meditation and stuff, then who's actually going to combat this? It takes the divine masculine to do this, right? And it's not about gender. It's simply about masculine and feminine energies, right? And balancing those things out. It's the yin, the yang, the electron, the proton, right? The sun and the moon. We all have these things within us. But unfortunately, the new age is all about now stimulating us on the right brain hemisphere and getting us, sort of reducing us into these infants with a dominated masculine right brain hemisphere in lieu of the left brain hemisphere. And it's been the sort of inverse throughout the last few decades, where capitalism has reigned and everyone's been this left brain prisoner. This is what they do. They just constantly fling us from left brain to right brain. What we need is absolute divine equilibrium, which is actually the lost word in Freemasonry. So anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Do join along here, because we're trying to create a better world by reclaiming our land and providing co-housing environments that freely provide shelter, energy, food and water as basic human rights. Sure, they should be, right? So all the things we fundamentally need to exist should be basic human rights. The things that we want, we can continue to earn those things, right? But until we free ourselves and liberate ourselves as a people, we're going to maintain this sort of state of stress, anxiety, depression. What we want is freedom, abundance, well-being, right? And we can do that, and we can only do it together. So what we need to do is realise that there are no politicians or petitions required. We can all come together and achieve this, and it has to come from us. It's not going to happen for us, it has to be done by us. So please visit newearth.land if you want to visit the site which will sort of explain in more detail exactly how we can bring this about, bypassing all politicians and petitions. Okay, thanks for watching this video. See you next time.